Good evening, demons and demonesses. You're watching Kwame's Notion, commentary in a logical perspective.
Bass player, former governor, and former presidential candidate Mike Huckabee was in the news today regarding some comments he made about the mass shootings that occurred in Gilroy, California, and El Paso, Texas. Now, with so many shootings happening so often in the United States, many Americans have been demanding elected officials to take action and to do something to prevent future acts of violence. Mike Huckabee came up with this brilliant idea. A plan that could prevent gun violence for decades, centuries even. And what is this brilliant plan, you ask? The power of prayer. On his website, he writes, "Despite all those who are denouncing the idea of prayers for the victims, do a Google search. Thoughts and prayers are not enough. And see how many hits you get. I will continue to pray for the victims and their families, and for an end to this mindless violence. And I hope you will too. In fact, I would posit the lack of thought and prayers is probably the single biggest factor in what is behind. Passing more laws and pointing more fingers is just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. That is why I keep ignoring the scoffers and continue saying prayers and urging people to join together and do the same." Now guys, I'm pretty sure many of you all have heard this before. After every mass shooting, they always say, "We need thoughts and prayers, we need thoughts and prayers. We need to put our trust in this book, and if we put all of our problems in the hands of God, everything will be better." When will Americans learn that God isn't fixing anything? I mean, bloody hell, we can't keep doing the same shit over and over and over again and expecting something different to happen. You know, well, I'm from the UK, which is, you know, overall a still predominantly Christian country. Alright, and in my country our politicians don't solve problems by praying. They solve the problems by passing legislation. Alright, the last time there was a mass shooting in my country, it was damn near almost, fucking 10 years ago. And if you want to talk about Scotland is almost like 15 years ago. Alright? Many Americans will try to compare the size of the UK and say, well, our numbers are, that's why your numbers are so low, because it's a small point of the population. But I think the real reason is, politicians in the United Kingdom aren't bought and paid off or owned by the gun manufacturing, the gun lobbies and all that other shit. Right? The NRA doesn't represent gun owners. They represent the gun manufacturers. Because a lot of NRA members, a lot of them support background checks. A lot of them want to, you know, make it easier for people to have access to mental health services. A lot of them do. But you know, the NRA isn't pushing all of these things. You know what they're doing? They're just taking the money from the gun manufacturers. Alright? The NRA represents the gun manufacturers, and the GOP is in the pocket of the gun manufacturers. And do you really think these gun manufacturers really care about the interests of the American people? No, of course not. You know, a mass shooting like this happens, right? Every time one of these shootings happens, they use it as a marketing strategy. Allow all the madmen in the country to have fucking guns, and then you push these methods and the thoughts of thoughts and prayers and all this shit, right? And then you tell the consumers, buy more guns, buy these guns to protect yourselves from madmen and all this other shit, right? And then what happens? Another madman commits a mass shooting, and then they repeat the same thing all over again. I mean, it's gotten to the point where some places in Europe are like, you know what? They're just starting to warn people, say, hey, just be careful when you go to the United States. There's a lot of madmen running around with guns. And you know, I think that's highly embarrassing, considering the fact that we are considered a developed nation. Now you might be asking, hey Kwame, why do you want to ban all guns? Or Kwame, why you want to take everyone's guns away? Well, that's not what I want. Alright? If you were to ask me, do you want to ban all guns? I would say no. Of course not. Alright? Look, I am consider myself, kind of libertarian, especially on the issue of guns. But there has to be regulation in place, and there has to be certain laws in place that prevent madmen from going around and killing 400 people or 30 people or how many other people have died or have gotten injured or shot in mass shootings. Alright? There's many places in the world that have guns, but they have guns, but the amount of mass shootings is very low. I mean, what country shall I compare to? What? Switzerland and, I don't know, Japan, alright? Both of these countries have very strict gun laws, with an extraordinarily low crime rate. Alright, stats like these don't go unnoticed. A lot of people in the United States know this. Alright, 93% of Americans want comprehensive background checks on all gun purchases. And 76% of Americans believe that citizens should have easier access to mental health services. Alright? If every other country could figure out how to decrease gun violence, then what's our excuse? What's the excuse for the United States? Now, according to police, both of these shootings were motivated by racism and hatred towards, immigrants, both legal and undocumented. Right? I don't think that any amount of prayer or mental health services is going to get rid of someone that has such a disgusting worldview. Right? There's many successful ways to de-radicalize these extremists. I mean, we've seen it many times before. I mean, you've heard about it on the Kyle Klinsky show, you've heard about it on David Pakman, you've heard about it on Destiny, alright? But none of these people are using thoughts and prayers to de-radicalize them. And even if you were to, use thoughts and prayers, that's not going to change anything. Did thoughts and prayers end slavery? What about Jim Crow? What about the fact that many of these racist extremists pray to the same fucking God that Mike Huckabee prays to? And he expects you to pray to this God too. Point of the matter is, thoughts and prayers without action solves absolutely nothing. The truth is, Mike Huckabee and anyone else pushing this, narrative of using thoughts and prayers, what they all need to do, they need to take these thoughts and prayers, right? And they need to wipe Mike Huckabee's ass with it, right? The United States needs comprehensive gun reform, not meaningless words and not empty promises.